OBS. So, now, first up, we have Nebula versus LevT, and these, just to say that these two are two of the top players in the tournament would not be an exaggeration. Nebula, of course, first in the biggest group of death that we have pretty much ever seen, I think.
Don't blame me. It's the hat's fault.
Yeah, the hat's fault. I had to experience that group of death. It wasn't fun. Nebula, Martini, myself, and of course poor old Dr. Balanced, one of our newer players there, just got drawn into that horrendous thing. And of course LevT out first in the group, just kind of in a dominant fashion. Always been up there in terms of just very solid player. Has had some strong results against strong players. I would still say Nebula comes in as a bit of a favorite today, but it's not, by a foregone conclusion by any means.
No, I think Nebula definitely has the edge here, but and it's going to take some exceptional play from Lev to basically beat one of the best current SpyParty players, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get on into the draft. As with all Winter Cups, this is venue sets, and you pick a venue set, you ban a venue from either yours or your opponent's set, and in these bracket stage matches, we also have a doubling phase, where we double one of the venues, so it's a 1st to 9, rather than a 1st to 7 like we had in groups.
Yes. And so we have Nebula winning the coin flip and choosing to pick Ice Cubism first, which I should know what are in these venue sets, but it's been a while.
You made them.
I did make them, but I made them a few months ago now. LevT picks Floor Play, a set of a lot of venues that aren't normally 4 of 8 that are
Ballroom's usually 4 of 8, so... Just to get into it,
everything else though, we've got Veranda and Library as 4 of 8, which I think people would agree is slightly spicy, and High Rise 4 of 8, which never gets enough love.
Yeah, we don't see that one very often. It's more of the kind of pull it out every once in a while to keep things interesting. As far as Ice Cubism goes, we have Pub 3 of 7, Modar 4 of 8, Tayan 4 of 8, and Gallery 4 of 8. So some smaller venues, some bigger venues here. Modern and the Gallery, of course, being the bigger ones, while Tayan and Pub are on the smaller side. Got a lot of, a lot of different play going on here.
Yeah, and we have Lev banning Tayan and Nebula banning Verbanda. A little bit unusual to ban the 4 of 8 Veranda. I would think that's possibly less of an insta ban than usual, but Nebula not wanting to risk anything.
Yeah.
And we have doubles onto Gallery and Ballroom.
That makes sense, I think. These are players who really like those 4 of 8 venues that have a lot of spy agency, but, good, just a lot of skill expression is how I would put it.
Yeah, I think they're very balanced, very traditional venues. You can't really go wrong with them.
No, indeed you can't. Give me one moment.
And, but of course, speaking of very balanced venues, they will be starting off with Pub 3 of 7.
Pub 3 of 7, my favorite pub, I've got to say. It is up there. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do on this venue. It's just the best version of pub that we've found, in my opinion. But...
Alright then.
Alright.
If we are ready.
I am ready if you are.
In 3, 2, 1, play it. And Nebula just chilling, just going in, flirting.
Flirting pretty early. Standard spot.
The most traditional of all starts.
Yeah, it's a little bit different on bar because, especially on this pad, just because, it's so close and AIs don't quite as often end up here next to each other as they might out on conversation. We do pick up, of course, that delegate option. I would be a little bit surprised if we saw that used.
I'm surprised Nebula is respecting Lev enough to not want to immediately go and join the seduction target again. We are losing a bit of time here. And especially with especially with a sick bug TM. We're now no longer worrying too much about timing.
No, we're not. Bug is clean, and that usually is going to mean a win on this venue, as long as we don't fall too far behind in terms of our pacing.
Yeah, I think the only issue here is flirt, and a minute 30 is fine. If we get our next flirt now, we should have plenty of time to line up a contact and finishing this flirt.
Indeed. Next flirt done. And we're moving away so we can reset that timer. And we're going for a briefcase, and I think that's just a way to reset the timer. Or we could be going for a silent game. Unfortunately, the other spot we've put a fingerprint down is the statue, so it does look like it's just going to be a flirt reset.
Yeah, I think that trying to complete prints here might be risky, though. I guess on the other side, a silent game... I feel like a silent game is wasting the fact that we have this bug. Unless Nebula is particularly worried that we might have bug credit.
Yeah, ooh, this is really, really unfortunate for Nebula. The double agent's out of conversation, so we need to find a print, I guess, to finish this game and go for that silent game as we mentioned. Or we're going to go for a take here. Delegate is taken. It's not a print, nor is it okay, we're gonna go for okay. Contact finally gets completed.
Is it gonna be set in time?
Banana bread.
Just barely. And the shot is off onto the correct one. It's very interesting because we were mentioning that bug is very likely to just be a one game, but the timing there of just the DA being out of conversation, the forced overtime, not great for Nebula.
We were also the only person in the entire party who got real there.
Yeah, that's not gonna it's not gonna help when you go to overtime like that, and the sniper knows for a fact that you are done with missions. So, unfortunate bit of bad luck there, I think, from Nebula for Nebula, but Lev taking advantage of it keeps that first sniper game under control. And we can get on into the next one here.
As Teal.
Yep, LevT as Teal here. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And waiting quite a while on AI control. I don't know if this is because we're just worried about passing through the doorway against Nebula. It does seem to be, as we now have control now that the traffic jam is cleared. On the other hand, this is Speedy Pub, and we are sitting in a conversation, not really achieving much at all with 30 seconds gone. Coming in for our first flirt, deciding we don't want to try and go around the side of that conversation. I feel like the conversation stop here is a little bit risky because the next AI that comes to try and join this conversation is going to have a bit of a rough time. Alright, our first flirt at a minute 26. Immediate bail into bar, I guess. I imagine we'll pick up a delegate and then we will have to try and two green flirt our way back out of this.
Alright, yes indeed. LevT, pretty slow game so far, but here's the Purloin. What's gonna happen? Here's the reaction.
I feel feel like we should be the bigger suspect here, given that we joined conversation for about 3 seconds and then bailed to bar. It's a very spy-like thing to do.
The question is can we get someone else shot here? Here comes the contact. Salmon seems to be the obvious frame target.
And he was talking, but there is no shot, and I think if we now try and take a reel, this is going to be...
Yeah, this is going poorly. Look at the other neutral lights on the other two guests. It's just us as a highlight now.
And I don't think that even we can complete green flit and a contact here. We're just... another fake is not going to help out.
No, I don't think it is.
Just headed for a timeout.
Yeah, here, nice hold by Nebula here, despite the attempt from LevT to get a shot off onto Salmon. We saw the hover over Salmon as, time ticked down, but was waiting for that OT, which never came.
I almost think that second contact made Salmon less suspicious. Nothing had changed in his conversation. He had the same SDA. But either way, a bit of a frame game attempt that didn't quite work out, and both players having a bit of a rough time so far.
Indeed, indeed. But we are on to the best venue of all time, Ballroom, with Nebula playing as Pearls to start us off. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And immediately we will be chasing down AST to Windows because no one tracks Flirt, do they?
Doesn't seem like it. Except for, David W. And sometimes other people will do it, but not on Ballroom usually.
We're lining up for, I think this is a golden range bug.
We are, I believe, within standing bug range, which would be a very nice bug. We are being watched by Lev, and even a highlight just for standing here.
I don't know if that's just credit or phantom something, but this is a little bit unfortunate given that Amber is now left and we still haven't taken this bug.
Yeah, no dice here for Nebula. We went for we went for a bit of a long con, but the Amber walks away, and we pick up the highlight anyways.
Joining IST for second Flirt and the first minute of this game with nothing really much else to show for it, and we are still the only highlight.
That was a very quick briefcase pickup, I would say, for no particular reason, but that's actually good because AIs will pick up a briefcase pretty quickly in a lot of cases, and spies usually wait that full beat, whereas AIs do sometimes have a bit of a quicker tempo on that. So a nice little play by Nebula to look a little more AI-like.
And speaking of quicker tempo, Nebula realizing he needs the help and going for a green time ad, followed by a reverse driveway bug. Yes, completely covered by conversation and pillar.
Yeah, super well done. Seeing the ambassador would be coming towards them at that angle, or at least predicting that the ambassador could, and seeing that there was a lot of conversation cover. This is the kind of play that makes Ballroom so interesting over and over again, and where good spies can really open it up. And Nebula is, of course, a very strong spy.
I feel like I just had a bit of a sales pitch, but either way, we're in conversation with our double agent. We look on track to finish Flirt and Contact, but my question is what the third mission is going to be. There's the
well, I have to imagine it's Prince. We've got the one.
Right, I'd forgotten about that. And Amber is sitting here with a briefcase on the ground and a book in hand, so...
There should be some going down soon, yeah.
It is just how much credit Lev has given to this bug suspicion highlight. I'm a little bit interested that Nebula, being such an etiquette sniper, isn't really being super careful himself.
Interesting, this second contact. It is another reel for us, but the second one's only reel for us, which doesn't help us that much. Amber should move. They're alone in conversation, so that briefcase is going to be available for us. We're going to go immediately for it. Will Lev be able to shoot for this?
There seems to be no sniper reaction so far. I think want a bit of attention.
8 seconds. We need to make that decision soon, or Nebula's going to score the first spy victory of the set.
I think we're just totally forgotten about, and that's a nice clean spy win.
Yeah, very, very clean, beautiful bug earlier on in this game. As I was saying, we see this time ad, and then Nebula recognizing where the ambassador is standing, where the ambassador is likely to move, and how the party cover is. It's not just this conversation that we actually end up entering either. It's the conversation in front of us with Toby offering. There's just so much visual attention, and this happens so quickly. We time it really well.
Yeah, it's. Timing this path with the amber moving just a little bit too fast for Lev to rotate and guard that properly. So I guess on to the next game.
On to the next game with LevT already been on the back foot, yeah.
Yeah, it's early days. It's one spy win. It's a bit of a tough ask to return the spy win against Nebula, but we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. Lev now on the spy side playing as Red Dress in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Given that we are on the most balanced of venues, Ballroom, easiest to get the...
We AI controlled through a lot of bouncing there. Unfortunately, I don't think Nebula's doing pathing the lights this early on in the game because of that possibility. We go for... Oh, that was not a good bug. This is going to be death.
It seemed okay from spy side, not so much from sniper side.
No, I think we just got we got the arm wrong. We were going to try to stick our arm inside the ambassador, and then Nebula would just have to credit. But instead, unfortunately, we got the wrong arm, and that just waved to the sniper.
So down a little bit already in the set, and one sweep isn't the end of the world, but it's not what you want.
No, it really isn't, especially not against Nebula, who's both very strong on spy and sniper. It's going to be hard to claw any games at all away from this player. So Lev's got his work cut out for him, but I'm always happy to root for an underdog. I'm always happy to see a comeback. And it's, again, as you mentioned, early days. This is 1st to 9, not 1st to 7.
And of course, it's Ballroom.
Ballroom.
May the best spy win. In this case, Nebula as Rocker.
In 3, 2, 1, play.
Not going for that immediate tempting bug, but instead playing Where's the Red Triangle. Well, I say that. The spy amount of warrants the talking respectful before taking our first flirt. In with the green tests, eyeing up the party, deciding not to purloin here.
Yeah, not purloining this time. It's a little bit early in the game. Nebula usually doesn't love those early purloins unless they're a particularly interesting cheese.
I do think it's interesting that he does take the innocent drink, making a bit of an effort to maybe not let behavioral sniping get the better of him.
Yeah, I agree, and we do even take a pretty respectful conversation entry. We actually do go for the cheese flirt though. So I take it back. Toby and Ambassador over on the other side of the venue with the sniper at that angle that Lev was. That's a very, very difficult to kind of perceive cheese flirt. So well timed by Nebula. We're seeing a lot of very strong spy play just in terms of timing and understanding of the party and where the sniper is going to be looking, or even just what the sniper can't see. Looking strong so far. And we do pick up a briefcase here. It's not printable, so we don't get that, but we are going to find a last flirt.
It was a difficult print that we missed.
So. Oh, my apologies. I did not notice that we had missed the difficult print, but that makes a little bit more sense. That would explain the bit of camera shake we have had from Nebula there.
Yes, it does make... I mean, we're almost looking like we need another timeout here. We can't just finish with another print. And we're a little bit dry on easily available missions.
Yeah, contact's technically there, but there's so many people out of conversation right now, and the double agent leaves anyway, so not much to do here. We're going to get moving, probably to a window, as you mentioned, to get that time ad. We do have a highlight at windows at the same time, so hopefully... Oh, but it's going to be white test, and it's going to be a little bit of a beep right in that moment.
Yes, time adding at 16 seconds before the minute is particularly bad, given that you then immediately get the minute beep.
It's basically a red test, except it's not a red test.
It's just the red test of, oh dear, I forgot.
Right, indeed. Mental red test.
Some spy camera nods. I imagine Nebula is
looking at
happy
Seek
about
and hoping
frame
Seek
lineups.
dies. I think Seek did have center inspect as well, so I would not be surprised. Nebula twitching forward in conversation, maybe trying to be able to request Toby here.
In the end of red.
Either way, Seek
look
does
at that.
indeed die, and we didn't need that request.
No, we didn't. Nebula was on top of who had the prints, who had the inspects, and Lev just decides, I've got to shoot it. Nebula, super aware of the party there, and that's how we take that game down, and that's now 2 spy wins in a row on Ballroom for Nebula.
Yes, starting to look like a bit of a hill to climb for Lev. I think got somewhat unlucky with that party, and then Nebula just making the most of it. Maybe we can get lucky in return. We are the blingiest of twins.
Is the blingy one the lucky one?
No idea. We Lev can try to make it the case.
All right, Lev on the spy side of Ballroom in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
You know, they've certainly got plenty of family assets to sell for advantage.
Oh, but of course.
Starting with early statues, which is somewhat against the meta at the moment. Nebula does not mind, and we're just being insta-highlight for it anyway.
Yeah, it does take that highlight for the memory on the statue visit, and that's kind of the reason why it's against meta to be going to these early statues, is because you don't want to pick up that highlight. I can see a bug possibility here as we trigger, as we leave the conversation, and it's going to be a wrong arm in the end, but I think it's just a little bit too... I mean, maybe Toby was covering us up, though.
I think it might have been just a little bit too exposed to take.
Yeah, I feel like
especially
Nebula would be able
as
to
a
see
highlight, and Lev will have felt that highlight, I imagine. I mean, it's rough to take, but you do have to sometimes take that early highlight just so you can't immediately lowlight everyone in the first minute going to statues.
Yeah, absolutely. 40% now on the flirt as we pick up another one. Not much progress going so far, but we do still have a little over 2 minutes. Toby comes to offer us, but it doesn't seem like a very good timing for it, just because we are kind of out in front. And look at that double zoom on the list take, just to make sure we weren't purloining.
Both of these spies taking a far higher percentage of innocent drinks than one comes to expect. Especially given that time we'll be ticking down, having our hands full makes a little bit of things more difficult.
That it does.
I thought we were coming in to finish off inspects, but no, it's just gazing at the painting. I think we kind of do need to start making more progress.
Yeah, not much time on the clock, or we need to time add now. If we time add later on, it's going to be a little bit too obvious.
No such interest. And as we move out, seduction target moves as well. I imagine we'll be following them. But finishing flirt isn't really going to help us here.
No, I mean, it's going to help us a little bit in that we'll have an extra mission, but here we go. It's a white purloin, unfortunately. I think it was actually... it was okay. It wasn't great, but with the white purloin, this is going to start getting low lights, and it's going to be hard to complete from here.
I think that the idea might have been
Sip fake BB, trying to get a low light, maybe.
I don't think Nebula is going to reward that. you know, at this level you can't really go like that.
Ooh, we sip, broke, started talking. I don't know what's going on there. We go for a bug and we just die.
I don't know if the plan had been to green BB and then inspect swap, or green Purloin, but either way, after the white, that was going to be a bit of a struggle to finish.
Indeed, it was, and unfortunately for Nebula had the full sweep on Ballroom.
Not the place you want to be, but there's hope.
The hope is swiftly dwindling, I would say, Scout, but I am always of the opinion that until that match is over, we can't say for sure who is going to win. Of course, Nebula comes in as the favorite and has a commanding lead so far, only 3 more games needed to clinch this, but we've seen bigger comebacks in the past, so I wouldn't count Lev out just yet. It's just those numbers are getting smaller.
Yes, very much so.
Well, now we are on to Modern, with Nebula on the spy side playing as Plane Twin. Let's see if we can see another spy win in a row. That might, get pretty close to locking it up if we saw another Nebula spy win here. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Modern also going to be interesting to see whether Nebula is going to follow his own pathing knowledge on this very pathing heavy venue.
Yes, you can have some weird stuff around that couch and that middle glass area.
Taking out a book, first either spy has seen any value in education or reading, or in fact the small little microfilm. I don't know what that was a redirect of, but it was pretty. I'm going to appreciate it.
Alright, we go back into Red Book where we can flirt with our ST, a nice little bonus for returning this innocently.
It's not really amazing time for an action test, so it looks like all of this time with the book will have been in vain.
Yeah, but, throwing that in there as a bit of a balancer is always good as well, just so, you can't have someone go, well, this person took out a book and then put it back correctly. That's a low light. As long as you're not overdoing it or spending really too much time on it, it should be okay. And Nebula does, is good at moving around when he needs to and not staying in these conversations too long, not spending, the extra 5-10 seconds in any given spot that another spy might, and, driving themselves into time trouble.
Speaking of time trouble, we were just looking about the party and trying to figure out whether to say the double and have Julie been dumped by the agent. So off to find more missions it is.
We're going back to Red Book again. I'm not sure that this is printable. No, I would seriously doubt it, given the ambassador has a drink and a briefcase in hand. We're just going here to be unsuspicious, or maybe even try to do something with that.
While the sniper was holding this angle, I would have thought a microfilm might even be possible. There's that pillar covering a lot of the Red Books, but no interest in that.
Yeah, it looks like that Nebula might be trying to line up another frame game with a Delegate Purloin at some point in this, but I'm not sure what guests are around to, accept that and be shot.
Yes, there's been a very small amount of statue inspectors as a whole, so ambient levels of suspicion seem to be helping out Lev at the moment.
We do take a pretty quick Purloin to Rocker here, so we're not giving up on missions quite yet, and in fact we gulp our drink and we're gonna maybe try to go back into Red Books again. Just trying to be seen there all the time, and so when maybe when LevT thinks, oh man, that Purloin's gone, but I saw Twin at Red Books 4 or 5 times. Oh, we're going for a cheese now, maybe? No, not quite a cheese. But look at this angle, and look where the Ambassador is, and look at this party cover. I like this a lot. We're kind of in the background of where the Ambassador was. Unfortunately, the Ambassador is now moving away and is a lot safer, so there's going to be a little bit more attention drawn away from, to give to us. But I think taking out this red book here was a very good plan. Purloin is down. We're going to go to green books here. We need one more mission after this. It could be very well be contact. Double Agent is in conversation. So Nebula looking like to getting away with a very strong game here. Nicely played so far. But we have to get that contact still.
Contact in 20 seconds, I think, is the thing that could ruin us. Speaking of,
DA has left. We are now in panic mode, unless the DA joins that conversation, which, no, they're going to Windows. Nebula has to redirect somewhere else, go for just a crash bug at the end of the game. You have to imagine he's going for something here. I'm not sure. He's just trying to get all the way around. There it is, but I think we're going to get shot in overtime, despite everything. Lev's laser is shaking, but he finally takes the shot. And Nebula... Not quite, thanks to that double agent.
I think that was certainly a journey of some proportions at the end, taking the whole loop-to-loop around the conversation, which was worth it, those few extra seconds to get a bug that was functionally invisible. If not for the overtime, we might have actually gotten away with that. And Lev managing to line up that shot despite the obvious nervousness is, I think, well played on both sides.
Yeah, and look at when Nebula takes this last red book out. We've been to red books so many times and we finally get a microfilm done. But this is, again, we're just seeing really nice timing here, a really strong understanding of the party and what kind of things are going to draw attention. And you would think that over here in this kind of clear way, it'd be very obvious to Lev, hey, look at this twin over here at red books. I know that their book is red. However... You see Ambassador right here. You see a bunch of people at bar at the same time, and in this angle, in this looking back and forth between this this Ambassador, we're just kind of getting lost in the background, despite the fact that we seem like we're kind of out in the open. And Nebula, with a very, very strong understanding of sniper attention and how that works, almost gets away with this game.
Yes, if only for the double agent. It was very nicely played, and it's also especially. Lev is going to either see one mission or the other, and in some ways, if he's gutting Purloin at all, it's going to be quite a good time to get books done. So, Lev climbing up the scoreboard.
Climbing up the scoreboard slightly. A little bit here, but is still gonna need some more help. Playing now as Kane, needs to find spy wins. This comeback isn't going to happen without spy wins. We haven't seen one from Lev yet. So it's going to have to start here. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And I think that's the thing that could be difficult here, because trying to get all your missions done while also trying to avoid the trouble spots of the venue when it comes to pathing can be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Nebula, not quite as prolific as Martini in using that pathing, but does absolutely do it. And we already see one low light. I'm not even sure what for. Maybe it's a mistake even at this early on.
Okay.
Well, that's 2 low lights, so I'm going to retract that statement. We have 2 pathing low lights already.
We were almost considered for one, but sadly not. And I think, in some ways, we've put ourselves in a very good place in the party to try and do missions while not having to walk that far. We can maybe try and do a microfilm in the back here, depending on the cover. Speaking of...
Blue hooks here, as you mentioned, with the microfilm potential. I would like to maybe take this out and put it back in the wrong book later on. But I was more interested in that if other, guests at the other bookcases took them out themselves, because that's going to muddle the sniper's memory and attention of, the books a little bit more. Just having like 4 or 5 books out at once, suddenly maybe you're not as sure on the various colors that they came from. So Lev putting it back innocently this time around. I like the kind of taking the opportunity when you see a bunch of people at books there, on the chance that 2 or 3 of them take a book out. What? You know, it's funny because I actually think this is fine, etiquette-wise, but Nebula just highlights for it, and I think that was fine because the ambassador pathed. Okay.
Well, I think the issue for the shot here is the way we walked into the bookshelf, but
Yeah, so you'll notice here that Lev starts pathing towards his briefcase when the ambassador, well, maybe the ambassador's actually in range, but the ambassador is not quite, you know, is not next to the case when he starts the path here. So you could actually see an AI do this if the ambassador like pathed back to where the briefcase is. Unfortunately, it just looks so weird that Nebula is suddenly paying very, very close attention to our next path, which I suspect is what ends up getting a shot.
yeah, the bump around the corner of the bookcase there. I think it's a nice touch to trust that your sniper is going to know enough about the briefcase. It just looks so bad.
It just looks so weird and attention grabbing that it's not usually something you want to do as spy. You know, if you think your sniper's really on that next level of like, man, that's so weird, but I'm playing against a good player, and a good player would never do something that weird, and maybe get a low light, but unfortunately for Lev, that gambit does not exactly work out here. Nebula's a good player, but, you know, good players sometimes, when they see something that's weird, they just go, man, that was weird, let me highlight for it.
And speaking of difficulties walking into book pads, we have library, which...
Lots of book pads here to have difficulties walking into, although I think they're a little bit easier usually.
These ones are a little easier than the modern ones. So we have Nebula back on Irish.
Alright, in 3, 2, 1, playing it. 3 games out from locking this one up. And that could just be all sniper wins if Nebula holds this down. Could even give away a spy win and still be in a commanding position here just because of that big ballroom sweep we saw. But Nebula is never one to just, you know, sit back on his laurels. He is going to go for, you know, more spy wins, more domination here. And Lev is going to have to find a way to stop the blow, the bleeding, rather. The flow of bleeding.
And as the seduction target decides to join us in what was a useless conversation, we take our 17% and get out of there.
Yeah, very nice from Nebula. I see too many spies just sit there in that conversation and timer flirt. I think that is a pretty big mistake, especially when, you know, a lot of spies are just having trouble with pacing. You have to get moving. It's just a requirement of the game to complete your missions, you know, at a reasonable pace. So you have to start moving, and Nebula is very good at knowing when that's going to happen.
On the other hand, we do have a little bit less to do in this library, being the 4 of 8.
But we also have a little bit less starting time as well.
Actually, quite a lot less starting time. I'm interested to see how much extra pressure this puts on the sniper as well. You have to be on top of all missions. It's not like you can miss a purloin.
Okay, we're twitching forward to request a drink from Toby, but we actually request and then twitch again to cancel the request. Interesting. I'm not sure what Nebula's going for here.
Whatever it was, I don't think it's working out because we had some camera shakes.
Yeah, maybe we were trying to redirect Toby to a particular guest, because when you request and then like cancel the request, Toby's not going to ever offer to the guest he was already offering to because that guest is now on a cooldown of when they were being offered to. I think it's like about, oh, look at that. That's actually a really nice attempt at a bug, but Lev is highlighting for it.
And now I think it's in a bit of a tricky spot. We have extra time, but I'm not quite sure that the extra time is going to necessarily help us when our difficulty is how to get 2 missions by without...
Well, 2 missions could be done at this, you know, center statues right here. This could be a swap if we wanted it to be, or we could just go for the contact flirt. I do think we will die for that if we try for it, though, just because of that bug credit.
Yes, and Nebula deciding...
Oh, no.
Nebula deciding that he doesn't actually need to do anything else because Twin was busy doing everything, apparently.
I'm going to guess that Twin must have had at least full prints else. Perhaps a bug credit that some
They had full statues.
full statues, full prints, and a bug credit would be enough. And that is a game plan that I could absolutely see Nebula going for. And unfortunately for Lev, a bit of a mistake there, costing big time. And this set is looking, all but over.
I think, yes. I mean, in part, the only way to not take that miss shot is to be unwilling to credit Nebula with being quite so obvious with his mission progress. 2 easy prints and full statues right at the start seems a bit blatant even for Nebula, but especially when you're under pressure, the feeling of not taking that shot would be even worse.
Yeah, you just imagine in your mind, like, holding the shot, and then 10 seconds later, the game ends, and you would feel horrible about it, and there is absolutely that fear, as you mentioned. And Lev, now on the ropes, needs spy wins, and spy wins now. We're already into the point where if this isn't a spy win for Lev, Nebula's at the very least guaranteed overtime.
Indeed, and trying to attempt that as Wheels with what a good buck it is.
Well, Wheels has strengths in other ways, but let's get going in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Strength and doing a 360 in the first few seconds of AR control.
Oh, that's okay. Nebula's not going to watch that, for sure.
We have Amber. We take the world's biggest bug path without bugging, which, at least on Wheels, Nebula can be sure we didn't take that bug.
Yeah, that's the important part about that. You need to make sure that you're not going to just get shot or credited with a bug you didn't take.
Straight into early statues.
We should pick up a highlight here, as we do tend to see Nebula highlight for early statues like this. But no, not this time, it looks like.
It seems like neither Smallman nor us have picked up highlights, so maybe this might be research on Liv's part.
Is it Prince early for our highlights? We see General has a highlight and has a briefcase in hand.
Could be Prince or Brooks. I know Nebula.
Well, I take it back. General is now a low light. Thanks, pathing.
Indeed. Lev was upset about not hitting the screen flirt and has been sitting here trying to time a flirt, which selection target has just decided is not going to happen, but is definitely not helping with the pacing. I think what we almost needed here was some sort of rush game before the party got narrowed down too much.
Alright, here we go. We're going to find our center inspects and our last flirt. That does mean that we actually have 4 missions within kind of all this like very short range here. Contact is right there. Unfortunately, Double Agent is going to leave because no one else is in that conversation. However, joins a different conversation, and we actually do a little bit of a twitch just so we can get that last inspect that Teal was holding there.
Yes, it was the world's smallest Twitch, but
which is not legal, by the way. It has to be a big enough Twitch that it is considered a different spot on the pad.
But
we're gonna go for the immediate contact.
I think we almost have to.
And the end of red.
Contact going down. Mission win pending. Duke now at center statues. Can we get away with this game? But oh no, it's held up into the air and.
Lev definitely hasn't been getting lucky here. I think,
we also go for a purloin at the end. I think we didn't realize just how close it was to being, how close the statue was to being swapped, because I don't think you would go for a purloin here if you knew.
I certainly hope it wasn't the case that Lev thought it was 5 of 8.
Yeah, that would be a little bit awkward, because you do not need the last mission there.
But I don't think the purloin is what gets us shot. Duke deciding that of the 3 options, holding the statue at the top of its arc while the swap is happening is the best idea.
Yeah. And now we are on to many match points in a row. 8-2. Nebula now on the spy side, playing as Teal. And it's just not looking good for Lev. What can I say?
It's looking rough, but we can try to go out as nobly as possible.
Indeed. Nebula on the spy side playing as teal. In 3, 2, 1, playing it. Oh, the early bug, but it misses. I think there was a tiny bit of snapback available to see, but there's just so much clutter and movement around that I would be surprised if Lev was able to catch on to that.
I think it's also quite a dangerous bug to take as a spy. That cover you have can just vanish. But Nebula has the balls just to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is what part of what makes Nebula so scary. We've seen so many calculated, well thought out, really well done like frame games and timing and these really interesting spy plays. But we also just see something like, I'm gonna go for this bug, and if I make it and you don't catch me, I'm just gonna win, because and you have to be aware of that. Some spies are really good at certain things. Taking advantage of the party in certain ways, but Nebula really is a bit of an all-rounder.
Yes, I think might be considering already at this point a time ad, given that our seduction target is busily doing things, and either we need more time to flirt with them or more time for them to finish missions.
Yeah, unfortunately, the ambassador doesn't come outside, which makes a time ad a little bit less possible, because we're going to see Lev taking the zoom out to make sure no one's bucking that ambassador.
So willing to waste a little bit of time here, possibly waiting for a contact to get good enough to take. It has to be quite good at this early in the game to be worth taking, though.
Especially if we do a time ad, because that's going to add more time that those low lights exist onto the clock. Okay, here we go. Quick time ad out in the front. We could, if Lev were on top of that, we could low light everyone inside, but looks like we've gotten away with it.
Yes, that was very much almost into the realm of cheese, and I think Lev just saw the time ad.
I think
I'm
just
gonna
now,
take
yeah.
a wild guess at that.
Everyone from outside starts moving inside immediately. That can't feel good. But we do see a lot of low lights start being taken.
I am going to take a wild guess and say that Nebula might have an idea that he's gotten that time ad passed.
with that reaction from Lev? Maybe.
Possibly. And making progress on Prince, that seems entirely reasonable. Except that we're not actually making progress on Prince. That print long gone. And now we're just back to continue our flirt. And if Lev manages to hold here, it might start getting hard for Nebula to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. But, the outcome of this particular spy game just isn't that important overall, because Lev hasn't seen a single spy win yet, and is going to lead a lot more than 0 to come back in this set. Safety off on that ponytail there, though.
Safety off onto someone, certainly, and that looks like someone who wants to take a shot, but still managing to hold so far. I wonder whether Nebula can read any of the amount of suspicion that's being taken.
We go to the blue books trying to get our last flirt, and unfortunately Wheels does leave with that book, so we have less time to flirt than we thought we would, and we're just not going to have enough time to complete missions, I don't think.
No, I think at this point our best hope is to contact with someone who's suspicion.
Oh, and there's the shot taken onto Ponytail. Just the suspicion got too high in the end, and that is the entire match. Nebula advancing to the semifinals, perhaps what people predicted, but I don't think anyone would have guessed by this scoreline.
No, and I think bad days and good days, and I think perhaps we didn't see Lev at his best. This is definitely a solid matchup, and small things can make such a difference at this level of play.
Yeah, Nebula seemed to have a particularly strong day on the spy side. Lots of very good play, and paying attention to the party and knowing really exactly when and where Lev would be looking at any given time.
Yes, so